Hello everyone, I am Siddharth. I was last on the schedule today, but as he mentioned that I swapped with the other person who was. So I am from Caltech, and I'm not from bioinformatics, but I am like getting into this, and that's why I wanted to pitch in what I'm doing to this community so that I get input about what I should do in future as well. Okay, so so the work I'm from an information theory background, so as you know, in DNA there are like several regions which have like lots of repeats, like around 50% of the DNA has like lots of repeats in it. So we so just look at this substring, and so it has like lots of repeats in it, and we thought like, okay, so can you think if we start from this very small sequence and just take some random locations in it and do tandem duplications there, can we generate this previous sequence from it? And we found like we found that like if you do like some like 10 or 15 steps, you can like generate the sequence that I showed you in the previous picture. Okay, so then we started thinking about an evolution model that you start with a small sequence of seed, and you do certain mutations, and then you are getting this some big sequence. So the mathematical problem of interest for us was like you have this starting point, and then you are getting this final sequence. And what happens if you replace these mutations just by like duplications? In this talk, I'll talk about tandem duplications, but I have some work which talks about interspersed as well. But so what happens if there are just tandem duplications? How much diversity can we like create now? Like, can we create like lots of sequences by starting from something very small and like doing just some tandem duplications? Okay, so just like let's think about this for a binary problem. The model is like this: you start with for example, a small binary sequence, and you take some random location, random substring of certain length, and then you duplicate it. You take this substring of length 3, you duplicate it, and you keep on repeating this process, and you can generate like something very big, and which looks very different from what we started from. Okay, so this is our like model, and so this is how it looks. So the question is like how much diversity can I create? So the first measure that we describe is like the capacity of the system. So you have, starting with a seed, you have like you can generate by choosing different substrings in that evolution model. You can generate like different sequences. Now we want to like count how many of these sequences we can generate. Okay, so so this is the first question. The other question that we asked was like, you started with the seed, and then you cannot generate this sequence from this seed by doing some tandem duplications, but can you generate this sequence, this orange sequence, as a substring of some like larger brown sequence or some other sequence? Okay, so there were like these two different measures that we defined. One was capacity, and the other was expressiveness of the system. Okay, so these are the two diversity measures I'm going to talk about. So we have this string duplication system now, where you have some alphabet. So in DNA, the alphabet size is 4. You have some starting point, which is we call a seed, and then there is some rule of duplications. So we analyzed this problem mathematically, and then took like two different analyze this problem for like two different kinds of duplication rules. One was like, when I'm doing duplications, I'm doing a fixed length of duplication. I'm doing duplications of certain length k, and when in the other model, I have duplications, but I'm doing duplications of length up to at most k. Okay. So for example, if you just look at like this ternary string system, there you have your alphabet size is 3. You start with 0, 1, 2, and T2 means you are only going to do duplicates of length 2. So what does that mean? You start with 0, 1, 2. You can generate either 0, 1, 0, 1, 2 or 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, like because of this thing. And then you can again do duplicates of length 2 in this, and then you can generate these 4 possibilities. Okay, but in the t less than equal to 2 model, what you can generate is this, because you can do duplicates of length 1 or length 2, and you can get these sequences, and you can follow the same procedure like you did here, and you can like generate a lot of sequences. Okay, so capacity, as I said, was like the count of number of sequences that can be generated by this system. Okay, so in order to like find we actually normalize this. So NSN is like the number of sequences that I am generating. Capacity I define as the log of the number of sequences divided by n. So capacity can at most the maximum value of capacity is going to be 1, and if I generate like constant number of sequences compared to n, the capacity is going to be 0. Okay. So let's see like what happens for this one very simple system, like what will be the capacity for this very simple system. Okay. So you have this you start with this 0 1, your alphabet is binary, you have this less than equal to 2 rule. What you can show here is that you can generate anything that starts with 0 and ends with 1 using this system, and that means that the number of sequences you can generate here is 2 power n minus 2. So the capacity of this system is 1. Okay. And so expressiveness, as I said, was a measure which was telling me if I even, so in this case I cannot generate strings which start with 1 and end with 0, but the system is still expressive because those strings that start with 1 and 0 always exist as a substrings of those strings that start with 0 and 1. So basically the thing is that I cannot generate y, which y is a string that starts with 1 and 0, 1 and ends with a 0, but I can generate a z which starts with 0 and 1, and y can exist as a substring of it. Okay. So for this example, it turns out that it is expressive, and what my initial claim was that that it generates anything that starts with 0 and ends with 1. So why is that true? If you think about it, anything that starts with 0 and ends with 1 can be represented in this form. Okay. So where this 0 power p1 means there is a p1 number of zeros here, then q1 number of ones, then p2 number of zeros, and so on. So what I can do is like I do m minus tandem duplications of length 2, you get some string like 0 1 0 1 0 1 until m times, and then I take each of those individual zeros and copy them p1 times. So I get 0 power p1, then I copy the 1 q1 times, and that way I can generate this whole sequence. So anything that starts with 0 and 1 can be generated by this particular string system. Okay. So we analyze this. So this was just an example for binary, but we analyze this for like higher alphabets, and there is this connection also between capacity and expressiveness, that if the system is not expressive, like if you cannot if the system if there is some string which you cannot generate as a substring, then the capacity, you cannot generate everything, so the capacity is going to be less than 1. And so what we found was the capacity for this kind of systems, TK systems, is always going to be 0, and for other alphabets like higher alphabets, our results were like this. Like, so if you have like bounded less than equal to k duplication rule, then we have like this k, if k is equal to 2, the capacity turns out to be this, and if the k is equal to 3, then this turns out to be this. So in ternary case, what it means is that approximately 3 to the power this number n number of sequences you can generate. This number for ternary is around 0.876. So which means that 3 to the power 0.876 n number of sequences can be generated if you start with a very small ternary sequence and do just length up to 3 duplications. So in terms of fundamental limits, you can generate a lot of sequences just by doing these tandem duplications. Okay, so that's what I was saying, and so in general the table looks like this, that for even for higher alphabets you cannot get much, you can only get up to this. Okay, so and in expressiveness what we got was like most of the systems for alphabet size 4 or greater, which is like so alphabet size 4 is the DNA, you start with any arbitrary string, and you choose any arbitrary k, you are not going to get expressive system. So you cannot generate everything as a substring, but in alphabet 3, if you choose your k greater than equal to 4, you can generate everything. So there is this sharp transition here in expressiveness. Okay. So I'll not go into the details of the proof here, but the proof the proofs in these kind of results use like techniques from complexity theory, and okay. So the question that first we asked was like the diversity of sequences that you can generate. So another question that we have like is, if you have this seed and there is this sequence that you are getting, what is the shortest path length to get that? You want to estimate the timeline of mutations, or like you want to see like some fundamental limits on the number of mutations you need to generate some sequence from a starting point. So we thought about this problem of like finding shortest path length when you have that kind of duplication model. So we call this as the duplication distance, and for the duplication distance problem, let's see this toy example. If you start with this 0 1 and do your duplication of length 2, then you get 0 1 0 1, and you do a duplication of length 3, then you get this. So in 3 steps you can generate this sequence from this, but there is other way by which you will need 4 steps to generate the same sequence. So what we are talking about is saying that the shortest path from 0 1 to this is 3, not 4. So we want to like analyze this problem for a general case now. So to think about this problem, it's better to think in the reverse way. So in the reverse way, what we are doing is like we are removing these duplicates to get back to the ancestor. Okay. So the math problem that we had here was like, what can we say about the maximum number of what can we say about the worst case sequence, like how many steps does the worst case sequence need? And we found that it needs a linear number of steps to generate that sequence. And as you can imagine, the best sequence will take log n number of steps, because at every time you are at most increasing your length by 2, and you get a log n number of you need log n number of steps to generate the sequence. But in the worst case, you need a linear number of steps. And what we also found was that the set which requires less than linear number of steps is a set of probability 0. So if you take n large enough, then that set size is very small. Okay. So yeah, so it turns out that most of the sequences require linear time. So it's an existence proof which was based on like counting argument. We were still not able to find in the sequence which did that, but we were able to say that there are sequences which exist and which could do in this way. Okay. So yeah, again now this tandem repeat definition that I gave was like there were like these repeats were perfect, but if in general these repeats are not perfect, they have like some imperfections, and those imperfections we model by something called beta approximate tandem repeat. So if the distance between the actual copy and the actual block and its copy is some function of beta, which is normalized is beta times the length of that, then what we found that there was a sharp transition. So if this beta was less than 0.5, we were still able to we still need like linear number of steps, but if this beta was greater than 0.5, then we need like log n steps. So there is this sharp transition if you have like more than 50% mismatch, and if you have less than 50% mismatch. Okay. So what I talked about till now was like you have the seed, you can generate how many new sequences you can generate by this seed just by doing tandem duplication, or you have a seed, or like what is the shortest path to get to that seed. Okay, sequence. Now the question that we asked was the reverse question, that this is some descendant, and I want to know how many ancestors it can have. Like, so there is a fixed tandem duplication model that I have, it can have more than one seeds. Okay. So this is now the question, like what are the cases where I have just one ancestor, and what are the cases where I have like more than one ancestors. So the scenario is like this, like there is a set of sequences you can generate by starting from S, and there is a set of sequences that you generate by starting from S prime, and then there will be some intersections, like these sequences will have like two ancestors in some sense. So you want to so this like black point can be generated from S, and it can also be generated from S prime. Okay. So the question that and what can also happen when you are like removing repeats, you can end up at a point where you cannot go back to S prime as well. So at certain point these things join, and we get we are in a zone where we can have two ancestors. Okay. So it's a very interesting ternary example was like this, that if you see this sequence, then there are two tandem repeats in it. So one is this 0 1 2 1 0 1 2 1. If you remove this, you get this sequence, and then you remove this repeat, and you will get this new sequence. But if you take this sequence, if you remove this repeat, then you will end up here and you cannot do anything. So you see like there are like two different routes to this sequence. Okay. So the question what we asked was like, what are the cases where we can actually have this kind of scenario, like you have no intersections and like everything looks very nice in that scenario. So what we found was like, for this rule, for TK rule, that kind of scenario exists. What we also found was that for t less than equal to k rule, this scenario exists only if k is less than equal to 3. But for any other rule you take, like you choose any set of duplication lengths you want, you will not there will be always more than one ancestor for that. Okay, so at the end of the day, we had this kind of thing. Like these are the only 3 explicit cases where you have this kind of scenario, and in all other cases you do not have this kind of scenario. Okay, and this has like applications in like this is like an error correcting code, because people are now thinking about storing data in DNA, and when data is stored, okay, so when data is stored in DNA, then with time that there will be mutations in that DNA, and if those mutations, like this is just very theoretical model, if those mutations are just those mutations will corrupt your data that you have stored. Now you want to correct the data. So if you want to correct the data, you have this you want to correct the data, so you can like you can put that kind of those starting points in your as information, and in that, even if there are these tandem duplication errors that happen, you can still recover back your original information, because there was no intersection there. So we had this like kind of channel model. You have input sequence, then you do some tandem duplication errors, and you get this kind of sequence, and you can design codes now with this kind of ideas. Okay, so at the end, what I did was like I said like there are some diversity measures. You use some finite automata theory, complexity theory to find the capacities and like count the number of sequences you can generate those sequences here. Then I talked about some duplication distance, like when there are perfect repeats, then it's linear. When it's approximate, then it's linear for less than 50% mismatch, and greater than 50% mismatch, it's logarithmic. And we found this idea of unique and non-unique seeds, and we said that you can design duplication correcting codes, and it has some applications in storage DNA. Okay, so these were the like papers which you can look into if you're interested for this work. So just last 2 minutes. Till now, what I told was like a model that was interesting and easier to analyze, but it's not practical. It's just a theoretical thing which was interesting. So our plan is like to get some intuition from that model. So the actual situation I talked about was like you have a starting point and you get some end point, and you just had like tandem deletion. But in general, there are like substitution, insertion, deletions, and you also have interspersed duplications. But let's think about regions which have like only tandem repeats in them. Like there are some regions in DNA which have like only tandem repeats. So the question that we are like now interested in is like developing algorithms to estimate the number of mutations in the evolution of the sequence. If you have a starting point and the ending point, you are given this ending point, and there are like substitution, insertion, deletions happening, then you want to estimate like how many mutations would have happened in the evolution, or you want to compare like compared to duplications, how many substitution, insertion, deletions would have happened in different. So you look at different individuals, how does that change with individuals as well, and in some sense, if you can estimate this number of mutations, the next question would be like to estimate what is the actual history, what is each point here. Can you develop estimation algorithms to just like estimate this history? And so this is like an inference problem here now. And there was some work which was done by Benson. He has a tandem repeat finder. You will be aware of that, I think, which did this problem, but still there were like so many caveats in that. Okay. So like just to like give like some intuition why this problem makes sense, because this if you look at this human chromosome, for example, so you see like most of, if you see this green block and this red block, then most of it is actually the same. So I align them, and then like if I align them, then they only differ at like certain positions, and most of it is same. So it's very likely that there were like some order of duplications and substitution, insertion, deletion which evolved this sequence. So the model is like you can have like, so if suppose you're, oh okay, Oh.
Do you want to just jump to this summary?
Okay. Okay. So. Okay, I can go through this slide and then. So what I just wanted to say that if there are some mutations, it's easier to infer the history because you can have some mutations, and those mutations will actually give you what could have happened before. So, for example, to evolve this sequence, one history could be that you have this, you created this, you have this block, you duplicated this block, and then there were these two mutations in it, and then you duplicated the whole thing. Other history could be you have this block, you duplicated it, you get this, and then you you created this mutation, then you duplicate this again, and you created this mutation, and then you do individual mutations. So, but the history one is more likely because in this case it's more probable to get this kind of situation. So, anyways, like my ongoing work is basically related to like finding different channels and finding codes for those kind of channels, and doing mutation estimation and duplication history estimation. And these are my collaborators for this work. And thanks for